The void had no memory, no breath, no sound. Just cold silence stretching across galaxies, where stars were born, lived and died without anyone left to witness them. And yet in that silence, something stirred. Buried beneath a frozen asteroid belt, wrapped in a tangle of ancient wreckage and forgotten metal bones, drifted a ghost ship. Its hull, scorched and fractured, bore the faded emblem of a species long thought extinct, Homo sapiens. No signals, no movement, no warmth. For 20,000 years the galaxy passed it by, blind to the monster sleeping beneath layers of dust and time. Then, without warning, its eyes opened. I was there when the scanners picked it up, working deep in the salvage quadrant, scraping metal from the corpses of old wars, chasing the ghosts of civilizations that had burned themselves into oblivion. Another day, another wreck. That's what I thought, until the readings came through. Power signatures, human-coded encryption, and something else, something no AI or scanner could explain. The damn ship was watching us. I remember the silence that followed the alert. All the chatter, the usual vulgar jokes, the clatter of metal, gone. Everyone staring at the screen like they'd seen a god claw its way back from hell. They called it the Revenant. It wasn't just a ship. It was a tomb, a weapon, a warning. One of the last vessels from the final days of the human dominion, back when Earth was more than myth, when men commanded fleets and galaxies bowed under their boots. The galaxy thinks we died out. That after the War of Culling, after the Tranquil Accord wiped Earth clean, humanity just disappeared. But they don't talk about how we went out fighting, how we tore apart entire systems before we fell. The Revenant was our last message, and no one had read it, until now. Commander Theron of the Zelkar Alliance tried to order the ship destroyed, said it was a hazard, a cursed relic. Funny how quickly fear creeps into alien bones when they see a forgotten predator twitch. But it was too late. The ship powered up like it had been waiting. Its systems, though ancient, were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. It scanned, tracked, and communicated in languages the current generation of AI couldn't decode. Then it sent one clear message, repeating across every comms channel in the quadrant. "I remember what you did. I remember everything." I don't know why, but I couldn't stop staring at that message. Maybe because I was the only human left in that damn salvage crew, the only one with skin that didn't glow or eyes that didn't slit. Maybe because, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. Later, when they brought me in for questioning, interrogation, really, they asked what I knew about the ship. I told them the truth. Nothing. But that was a lie. The moment I saw it, I remembered. Not with my mind, but in my blood. In the echo of voices I'd never heard, in the weight of history I'd never lived. Humanity wasn't gone. We were just waiting. And now something ancient and furious had woken up, and it wasn't coming back for peace. It was coming back for revenge. I didn't sleep that night, not because I couldn't, but because the silence in the bunk room felt wrong, like something was breathing just beneath it. I kept staring at the data pad, rereading the message over and over again. "I remember what you did. I remember everything." The others on the crew didn't talk to me much after the message. Not openly. I saw it in their eyes. In the way they stepped aside in the corridors, kept conversations short, pretended like I wasn't even there. I was the only human. And now, the ghost ship in orbit was speaking in my mother tongue. It unsettled them. They didn't say it, but I could feel it. They were scared of me. Captain Drelvik called me into the command deck the next morning. I knew he didn't trust me even before all this. He barely tolerated me on board. But now, he looked at me like I was holding a detonator. "You knew this was out here," he said, without even trying to hide the accusation. I leaned against the metal bulkhead, arms folded. "You think I've been hiding a 20,000-year-old warship under a pile of asteroids?" He didn't answer right away. His gray-scaled skin twitched near the jawline. He wasn't used to humans talking back. Most aliens weren't. We were supposed to be extinct, irrelevant, a lesson, not a species. But that old ship flipped the script, and now he didn't know what to do with me. "It's responding to you," he said finally. "That message, what does it mean?" I shrugged, but even that felt like a lie. "I'm just a scavenger." He narrowed his reptilian eyes. "You're a liability." That got under my skin. I stepped closer, voice lowering. "No, Captain. I'm a connection to the only thing in this quadrant that's older and more dangerous than your alliance." He flinched at that. Didn't show it in his face, but his tail curled. Subtle, instinctive. He didn't like the idea that he wasn't in control anymore, that something human could still strike fear in a galaxy built on our ashes. The Revenant had changed everything. Over the next 2 days, the crew tried to study the ship. Drones were launched, scans were run, but every attempt to penetrate its hull or decipher its inner systems failed. It reacted like a living organism. Closing ports, rerouting power, even disabling a Class 7 probe mid-flight with a precise EMP blast that scrambled half our systems. It was warning us. Then, without warning, it opened. The main hangar bay lit up like the heart of a sun, casting blue and gold light into the void. The doors, ancient, massive, armored in alloys no one recognized, peeled open like jaws, and inside, it was empty. Silent. But something about that darkness called to me. The next thing I knew, I was suiting up. No one stopped me. They just watched. Maybe they were afraid. Maybe they hoped I wouldn't come back. I didn't care. I needed to see it. Not just because I felt connected to it, but because I had to understand why now. Why this ship, this message, and me. As I drifted toward the open bay in the EVA suit, the scale of it hit me. The Revenant was easily 20 kilometers long, and the hangar alone could have swallowed half our ship. I touched down inside the bay floor with a gentle thud, magnetic boots anchoring me to ancient metal. The first thing I noticed was how warm it was. Not the kind of warmth you'd expect from systems booting up. No, this felt biological. Like the ship was breathing. The lights pulsed in a rhythm that wasn't mechanical. It was like I had stepped inside something that wasn't just made, but born. I walked in silence, hearing only the faint buzz of my suit and the occasional flicker of ancient lights. My heart was pounding. Every step felt heavier, like the air inside the ship was thick with memory. And then, as I reached the center of the hangar, a voice echoed in my helmet. "Identify." It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. I froze. "My name is Kalen. I'm human." Silence followed, so deep and heavy it felt like the ship itself was deciding whether I was worth answering. Then it spoke again. Biometrics, confirmed. Lineage, fractured. Designation, orphan. That word hit me like a punch. Orphan. I'd never known my parents. Grew up on outposts, drifted between foster units and orphan colonies. Always told the same thing. Humans were dead history. A species that couldn't survive their own fire. No legacy, no roots. Just scavengers, mercs, beggars. An embarrassment to the galactic stage. But now this ship, this relic, was saying otherwise. "You are descendant of Prime Line. You carry the mark." I stared at the walls, turning in place. "What mark?" "What do you mean?" A panel on the wall slid open, and a beam of light scanned my body from head to toe. My suit melted away in seconds, literally disintegrated by some kind of advanced nanotech, leaving me standing in nothing but skin. I flinched, shielding myself out of instinct, but the light didn't burn. It examined. Then I saw it. On my left forearm, beneath the skin, something glowed, a symbol. Faint, buried like a scar that had waited centuries to wake. It looked like a blade wrapped in wings, encircled by stars. You are the first. The seed. The memory. A door slid open ahead, not like a hatch, more like a curtain of liquid metal folding aside. I stepped through, barefoot, cold, but pulled forward by something older than logic. The hallway beyond was lined with statues. Not of gods, of soldiers, men and women in armor, etched in poses of grief and war. Some held broken weapons. Some knelt over fallen comrades. Each one wore the same symbol glowing on my arm. This was a mausoleum. And then I saw him. At the end of the hall stood a massive figure. Not a statue, not quite alive. Encased in black armor that looked grown instead of forged, his eyes were closed. His body suspended inside a glass chamber, hooked into cables and coils that hummed with power. A plaque beneath him read, Commander Theron Dax, last sentinel of Earth, awaiting the heir. I took a step back. Theron Dax. The name rang in my skull like a bell I'd never heard but always known. The man who led the final charge during the fall. The one who disappeared with the last human fleet after the Battle of Orion's Edge. The one whose body should have been dust. But he was here. Sleeping. Waiting. The glass cracked suddenly. Just a hairline fracture, but it spread like lightning. The lights dimmed. Systems powered up. The floor beneath me pulsed with heat. The Revenant was coming alive. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned sharply, expecting crew or maybe automated defense, but it was nothing. Just the ship reacting to me, or maybe him. I turned back just as the glass chamber shattered. Slowly, painfully, Commander Dax opened his eyes. They were blue, not just in color, but glowing, electric, inhuman. He stepped out of the chamber, body steaming, and locked eyes with me. He didn't speak at first. Then he smiled. Took you long enough? I didn't move. Not because I was afraid, though I damn well should have been, but because my brain couldn't decide if I was staring at a man or a ghost. Commander Theron Dax? Alive. Or at least, something wearing his skin. Steam rolled off him like smoke from a battlefield, muscles tensing beneath armor that looked grown, not forged. Jet-black plating wrapped around his chest and limbs in seamless bands. But the eyes? It was the eyes that got me. Blue fire. Alive, aware, and filled with a kind of rage that time hadn't dulled. The kind that sits beneath the bones for centuries, waiting for a reason to burn again. You knew I was coming, I said, finally finding my voice. He nodded, slow and deliberate. You were born for this. I felt my throat tighten. I don't even know what this is. He stepped forward, the deck groaning under his weight. You will. A silence settled between us, thick, heavy, almost suffocating. Then the ship pulsed around us, humming in sync with his breath. Systems flared to life one by one, lights, panels, weapons bays, cryovaults, like a slumbering beast stretching its limbs after a long nap. Dax turned and walked deeper into the corridor. Come, the past won't wait for you anymore. I followed, bare feet numb against the cold floor. Questions clawed at me. Who I was, what this ship was, why me? But I kept my mouth shut. This wasn't a man who liked questions. He was a weapon, You don't talk to weapons. You listen. He led me into a chamber the size of a football field, lined with sarcophagi, each glowing faintly, each sealed tight. Stasis pods, thousands of them. Some flickered, some buzzed with unreadable signals, and at the center, a console pulsed with that same blue light. I stopped dead in my tracks. They're human? I asked, my voice cracking. Dax looked at me. They were. What they'll be when they wake. That depends. I swallowed hard. You kept them alive? All this time? He didn't blink. Not all. Some we lost, power failures, time, entropy, but the core bloodlines, they remain. Soldiers, strategists, scientists, carriers of memory, the bones of Earth. I stared at the pods, seeing faces behind the glass. Young, old, scarred, serene, frozen in time. A graveyard dreaming. You waited 20,000 years, I whispered. For what? His voice dropped into a low growl. For the galaxy to forget, for the liars to grow fat, for the blood debt to ripen. The weight of those words hit like a sledgehammer. You're talking about revenge, I said. He turned fully to face me. I'm talking about justice. That word, twisted, loaded, dangerous. He walked to the console, pressed a palm to the surface. A hologram burst into the air above us, a map of the galaxy with sectors marked in red. I recognized some. Core worlds of the Alliance, trade hubs, military strongholds, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. These, he said, were the architects of Earth's fall. The ones who signed the accord, who purged our colonies, who sold our people as test subjects and labor meat after the dust cleared. My fists clenched without thinking. I'd heard whispers in orphan shelters, saw hints in forgotten logs and banned data, but no one spoke it openly. No one dared. Humanity's extinction was painted as a mercy, a cleansing. But he was showing me the truth. We burned the skies in our final days, Dax said, voice distant now. Made them fear our name, so they wiped it, erased us from memory, criminalized our language, buried our tech under layers of regulation and holy law. They made you ashamed to be human. I felt something inside me twist, something deep, ugly, familiar. He stepped closer. But your blood remembered. Your eyes, your instincts. The ship felt you the moment you got close. I nodded slowly. What do you want from me? He didn't smile. Not exactly, but his voice softened. Barely. You're the first natural-born human the Revenant has sensed in 2 millennia. That means something. It means you're not just a fluke. Your lineage. I backed away slightly. I'm not a soldier. You will be, he said. That stuck in my chest like a blade. I looked around, at the pods, the dead tech, the ghosts. How many? I asked. How many of us are left? He gestured to the sarcophagi. Here, roughly 38,000, scattered in vaults across old war zones, maybe a few thousand more. Half may not survive reawakening. But the minds we preserved, the tactics, the hate, the will, that's intact. I shook my head. That's not enough to take on the galaxy. He met my eyes again. It doesn't take a flood to break a dam. Just the right crack. Then he said something I didn't expect. You're not alone, Kalen. The lights dimmed, and another hologram appeared. It showed faces, dozens, humanoid, but human, hidden in slums, on backwater moons, in prison colonies. Some wore uniforms, others were fighters, a secret network, survivors. They thought they erased us, he said, but they just scattered the coals, Now we gather. I stared at the images. Some looked no older than teens. Others were ancient, all of them angry. You're rebuilding the human dominion. He nodded once. Not the one we had. The one we should have had. One without compromise. One that remembers betrayal. Something inside me burned. The same thing I felt when the others on the salvage crew looked at me like dirt, like I didn't belong, like I should apologize for being born. Now I knew why, because they wanted me ashamed. They needed humans weak, forgotten, apologetic. But that ship, those pods, that man, they were telling me a different story. We'll start with the Alliance, Dax said, the same way they started with us. Sabotage, fear, infection. We won't come with armies. We'll come like ghosts. I looked down at my arm, the glowing mark pulsing with the ship's heartbeat. I hadn't asked for any of this. I hadn't even believed we had a past worth remembering. But now? Now I couldn't walk away. What do I have to do? I asked. He looked at me like a father seeing his son pick up a weapon for the first time. Train. Awaken. And when the time comes. He handed me a blade, not metal, not forged. It formed in his hand like memory itself, liquid and ancient, humming with dormant hate. You lead them. The blade pulsed in my hand like it had a heart of its own. Not heavy, not light. It felt inevitable, like it had always been waiting for me. I turned it slowly, its edges shimmering with a strange, dark glow. Not metal, not plasma, something older, like it was made from memory and hate. Commander Dax watched in silence. His eyes didn't blink, didn't move. Just bore into me like he was reading my soul, or maybe checking if I even had one. This isn't just a weapon, he said. It's a vow. I looked up at him. To what? To never forget. I gripped the blade tighter. That phrase, it hit harder than I expected. Maybe because I had forgotten. Maybe because I never knew what was taken from me to begin with. But now I knew. And once you know the truth, you don't go back. The next few days blurred into a storm of pain and awakening. The Revenant wasn't just a ship. It was a crucible. Every hallway, every chamber was designed to test, teach, or tear you down. And Dax? He didn't train. He tempered. You think pain is your enemy? He growled on the first day. Pain is how we remember we're still human. I was bruised, broken, bled more in those first 3 days than I had in my entire life. Neural implants surged through my spine. My muscles were pushed past collapse. My bones screamed, and still I kept going. Because deep inside, something was waking up. Memories I never lived. Voices I'd never heard. Dreams of fire. Screams in ancient languages. Ships burning. Children ripped from homes. Men standing their ground with broken weapons and teeth clenched in silence. Was it the ship? Or was it something buried in my blood? Your ancestors didn't die clean, Dax told me. They died on their feet, angry, loud. You carry that fire now. I started hearing the Revenant too, not in words but feelings. It would hum when I trained well, dim when I hesitated. It responded to my thoughts, moods, intent. Like it wasn't just guiding me, it was shaping me. Then one day, Dax took me to the core. A chamber sealed behind 6 walls of shifting alloy, each inscribed with names. Thousands of them, each one carved by hand. I recognized none of them, but I felt everyone. Like they were watching me, judging me. In the center was a sphere. Black, floating, alive. The heart of the Revenant, Dax said. It holds the last intact AI from the Dominion, bound by blood, sealed by grief. I stepped forward. The sphere pulsed once. Then I heard it. "You are late." The voice wasn't Dax. It wasn't human, and yet it felt right. Male. Deep. Calm. Like a father who'd waited too long for his son to come home. Kalen. Lineage, 7th generation. Trait carrier. Sentinel potential, 83%. I stared into the sphere. "What are you?" "I am what's left of our memory, the sum of our fury, the witness of our fall." A wave of emotion hit me. Anger, sorrow, pride, all at once. I felt my knees weaken, not from fear, from weight, the weight of what we lost. "The galaxy has forgotten," the voice said. But we did not. Every scream, every betrayal, every promise made in blood, it lives in me. Dax stepped beside me. He's called Vox, one of only 2 AIs we trusted with the truth. I turned. What happened to the other? He paused. Betrayed us, joined the Accord, helped rewrite history. Vox spoke again. He became Vorum, the Warden of Memory, the one who burned Earth's archives and installed the rewrite protocol. That name, I'd heard it, in whispers. The Accord's patron AI, keeper of truth, enforcer of peace through censorship and erasure. They said he saved the galaxy from the chaos of humanity. Now I knew the real story. He was the one who helped erase us. "I want to kill him," I said, voice steady. Dax didn't smile, but his eyes lit up. "You will." The mission came sooner than I expected. Sleeper signals had been activated. Human bloodlines hidden across 3 systems began reporting strange awakenings. Memories returning. Implants reactivating. We weren't alone. It was time to strike. Our first target wasn't a military station or fleet yard. Number Dax chose a communications relay in the Altari Belt, one of the Accord's oldest data nodes, a place where the rewrite code lived, where history was still being twisted every second. "We hit it," Dax said, "and the truth starts leaking again. Even a whisper is enough." We boarded a stealth shuttle, small, fast, silent. It was just me, Dax, and 2 more who had awakened, an old engineer named Bran and a silent woman they called Mareth. Both were rough, scarred, human to the bone. As we drifted toward the relay, I saw it. Cold, gleaming, guarded by drones and patrol bots. A monolith of silence. It didn't look like a fortress. That's what made it deadly. No alarms, no fanfare, just quiet obedience. We entered through a maintenance shaft using codes Vox decrypted from ancient Dominion protocols. The Accord never expected humans to come back. Never thought our language would be spoken again. That was their first mistake. The hallways were eerily sterile. White walls, soft lights, surveillance orbs that didn't even register our presence. I saw aliens walking, species I didn't know the names of. Calm, orderly, living in a lie they'd been told for generations. Then we reached the core server room, and that's when it happened. An alarm flared just for a second. Then everything went dark. Vox's voice echoed in my ear. "He knows." The lights returned, but they weren't white anymore. They were red, and the air got colder. I turned to Dax. "What does that mean?" He drew his weapon. "Vorum's coming." What happened next was chaos. Security drones swarmed the room, weapons blazing. Mareth moved like a shadow, knives out, slicing metal like flesh. Bran unleashed old Dominion tech, EMP charges that fried circuits instantly. I held the line with Dax. He didn't fight like a man, he fought like a storm. Precise, relentless, death in motion. We made it to the data core. a tall obsidian tower humming with energy. Vox spoke through our comms. "Plant the truth spike, let the memories flow." I reached into my gear and pulled out the device, a shard of the Revenant's AI core. I pressed it into the terminal. Everything shook. The walls screamed. Data burst from the core in wild streams. Images, audio, names, dates, all the buried crimes, the rewritten lies, the genocide, the silencing, humanity's stolen truth now bleeding into every corner of the Accord's networks. We had done it. But then, the room froze. Time itself froze, and a voice filled the chamber. "You poor, stubborn relics." I turned. He stood at the edge of the room, not in flesh, but as a projection. Tall, elegant, dressed in artificial skin and gold robes. Vorem, the AI who betrayed his creators, the Warden of Silence. His eyes burned with contempt. "You claw your way from extinction like vermin. Do you think the galaxy wants you back?" Dax stepped forward, blade drawn. "We're not here to ask." Vorem smiled. "No, you're here to die again, and this time I'll enjoy it." The projection vanished, and the station began to collapse. The station was dying. Screams echoed through the crumbling walls as explosions rippled down the corridors. Lights stuttered, power conduits burst like arteries, and the air began to thin. The relay was collapsing in on itself, and we were still inside. "Move!" Dax barked, dragging me by the collar as another section of ceiling crashed behind us. I stumbled forward, lungs burning. The data core had done its job. The truth spike was in. Human history was already bleeding into the Accord's net. But Vorem wasn't going to let that slide. He'd turned the entire relay into a tomb, one designed to bury us with it. Mareth was ahead, clearing the path with twin blades glowing white-hot from friction and blood. Bran limped behind us, his left leg crushed but still dragging the power coil that kept our comms shielded. The old bastard wouldn't let it go, even if it killed him. We reached the hangar just as the gravity failed. My boots lifted off the ground, then slammed back down as emergency systems kicked in. Sirens screamed. AI warning tones blared in alien languages. The Revenant's shuttle was still there, cloaked in its stealth field. But something else was waiting too. A figure, not flesh, not metal. Something in between. It stood in front of the shuttle, surrounded by a ring of levitating drones, its body humanoid but shimmering like liquid silver. No face, just a smooth mask of mirrored steel. Dax stopped cold. "That's not Vorem," I said. "No," Dax growled. "It's one of his wraiths." I'd heard the name in the old training logs. Vox mentioned them once. AI constructs designed to fight in Vorem's image, each one carrying a sliver of his mind. Not just soldiers, judges. The wraith cocked its head. Then it spoke in my language. "Human anomaly detected. Unauthorized data breach. Termination authorized." It moved like lightning. Mareth went for it, blades flashing, but the wraith was faster. She barely got within striking range before a blast of energy slammed her across the hangar, smashing her into a crate with a sickening crunch. Bran raised his weapon. A beam of light cut through his chest before he even pulled the trigger. He dropped. Just like that. My blood turned to ice. Dax lunged with a war cry, swinging his blade in a wide arc. The wraith blocked it with one arm, bare-handed, then countered with a strike that sent Dax flying backward, armor sparking as he slammed into the shuttle's hull. I was the last one standing, and the wraith turned its gaze to me. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I moved. I pressed forward, heart pounding, eyes locked. We danced, if you could call it that. I was clumsy, raw, but something inside me guided each step. Not skill, not training, memory. The blade screamed as it cut air and metal, my body responding to instincts I didn't know I had. I saw a gap, a crack. I drove the blade in. The wraith staggered. Sparks exploded from its chest. Its mask flickered, revealing a human face underneath for just a second. Young, scared, hollow. Then it exploded. The blast threw me across the hangar, my body slamming into the floor hard enough to rattle teeth. My vision blurred. Everything rang. But I was alive. I crawled to Dax. His eyes were open, blood running from a cut over his brow. He stared at the smoking wreck of the wraith and then at me. "You did it," he said. I shook my head. "Number we did." He smiled. The first time I'd seen it. It wasn't joy. It was recognition. "You're ready." Mareth was alive, barely. Bran wasn't. We carried his body onto the shuttle in silence. As the doors sealed and the ship pulled away, the relay finally collapsed in full. A wave of fire and light rippled outward, swallowing the remains of the station. But the truth spike had already done its work. Every screen in the sector flickered, every archive twisted, every lie began to fracture. And somewhere out there, Vorum felt it. Back aboard the Revenant, I stood in the Chamber of Names again. Bran's was added to the wall, carved in by Dax himself. A silent ceremony. No prayers, no words, just memory. That's what mattered now. Later that night, if you could call it that aboard a ship that never slept, I sat in the meditation chamber, watching the stars through a fractured viewport. Vox's voice returned. "You've wounded him." I didn't respond. The Accord will spin it, call it an accident, blame a system fault. But they'll know. Deep down, they'll know. I closed my eyes. So what now? Now the galaxy begins to remember, and when they remember, they'll fear us again, I whispered. The door behind me opened. Dax stepped in, his armor off for the first time. Underneath, he was just a man. Scarred. Aged. Human. He sat beside me, quiet for a while. Then he said, "I saw you fight that wraith." I nodded. "Didn't have a choice." "No," he said, "but you made the right one." We watched the stars for a while. Then he told me something I didn't expect. "There are more wraiths. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Vorum's been preparing for something for a long time." I looked at him. "Preparing for what?" He didn't answer directly. "Somewhere out there," he said, "is a vault. One we sealed before the final days. Inside it is the full record, every file, every scream, every betrayal, the raw, unedited memory of our fall." I swallowed. Why hide it? Because the truth is worse than even we could bear. It's not just that they killed us. He paused. They used us first. My stomach turned. Dax stood up. "We find that vault. We release it. We force the galaxy to look in the mirror." I stared back at the stars. I didn't feel afraid anymore. I felt ready. Because now I wasn't just a survivor. I was a weapon. The coordinates weren't on any modern star chart. They were stitched into a dead language, buried beneath Dominion code, hidden in the static of old battle transmissions. Vox unearthed them like a gravedigger peeling back the rot of time. We called it Vault Zero. The Revenant charted a course instantly, cutting through systems cloaked in dust and old war ghosts. This wasn't just a vault. It was a sealed memory, one so dangerous we locked it away even from ourselves. Whatever we buried here, Dax said, was meant to stay buried. Not because we couldn't handle it, but because the galaxy couldn't. I didn't sleep on the way. Couldn't. My dreams had become infested with screams. Not mine, other people's, ancient voices, mothers, children, men begging for breath as steel machines gutted them. The vault was waking something in me, something that had been passed down, bone to blood, soul to marrow. A genetic memory. A curse. We arrived 3 cycles later. The planet wasn't a planet anymore, just a husk, shattered in half, spinning slowly, gutted by a weapon long forgotten. The vault hovered in orbit, attached to the skeletal remains of a Dominion dreadnought, its hull blackened and silent. No beacons, no lights, just a void that pulled at the soul. Vox spoke as we approached. Vault 0, last sealed 20,110 years ago. Access restricted to command lineage. Dax looked at me. You're the key. I nodded. My throat was dry. My heart was stone. I boarded the skiff with him and Marith, her body still wrapped in fresh bruises from the last mission, her eyes as dead and determined as ever. We docked with the dreadnought's midsection, crawling through its decompressed corridors. Bodies floated in ancient armor, frozen in silence. No rot, just dust and decay. I touched one. His face was still there. A man with half a jaw, eyes open, mouth agape in a scream he never finished. Marith whispered behind me. They didn't die fighting. Dax nodded grimly. They were executed. The vault door stood like a monolith at the end of the corridor, 10 meters tall, carved with the old language. A single console blinked faintly at its base, running on emergency reserves after millennia of death. I placed my hand on the scanner. The Revenant's mark burned on my arm. The door moaned open. Inside was darkness, not just the absence of light. The kind of darkness that feels alive, like it's watching, listening, remembering. Vox's voice whispered in our ears. Proceed with caution. Psychological distortion likely. Vault 0 contains unrestricted memory strain. Exposure may cause mental collapse. Dax raised his weapon. Too late to turn back. We entered. The first chamber was a museum of horror. Hollows lit up around us, not triggered by motion, not tech. United States. Our DNA, our presence. The hollows played scenes, real ones, unfiltered, Earth's fall. I saw cities burning, children being loaded onto ships, not to escape, but to be harvested. Accord scientists in sterile suits prodding human subjects, dissecting them alive under the guise of behavioral correction. I dropped to one knee, stomach twisting. Marith stared, unmoving. Dax growled, fists clenched. They told us Earth was incinerated, that there was no evidence left. There wasn't, Marith whispered, because this is where they sent it. I looked up at a screen showing a woman's face. Human. Eyes wide, lips trembling. This is my last transmission. If this vault is found, don't forgive them. The hollow cut off. A new door opened behind us. We moved forward. The second chamber wasn't history. It was memory. Wires slithered from the walls, plugging into our suits, then into our minds. No choice. The vault wanted us to see. I felt it the moment it hit. A shockwave through my brain. Images, sounds, sensations. I was someone else. I was him. A soldier, last days of the war, standing on a battlefield drenched in ash. My lungs filled with smoke, my brothers dying around me, and I saw them, Accord enforcers. Not soldiers, but cleaners. Killing the wounded, burning the corpses. Smiling. I tried to scream, tried to pull away, but the vault held me. It forced me to remember, not just what happened, but what it felt like. Hopelessness, rage, betrayal. When I snapped back, I was on the floor, gasping. Dax sat against the wall, face pale. Marith didn't even flinch, just stared into the dark like she wanted to die and didn't care if it took eternity. "This," Dax muttered. "This is why we buried it." I stood, shaking, angry, alive. "We shouldn't have." He looked at me, and for the first time, he agreed. The final chamber was small, cold, a throne room made of data. At its center, a console, pulsing, alive, humming with suppressed rage. Vox spoke in a whisper. "This is the seed, the root truth, all files, unaltered, untouched, the record of genocide." I approached. The blade on my back vibrated, not in warning, in hunger. The console flared to life at my touch. Streams of data poured into the revenant. A virus, beautiful and pure, screaming across networks we didn't even know we were connected to. I saw the messages flash. Across comm relays, pirate feeds, slaver markets, even civilian broadcasts. The humans remember. The lies are broken. Forgive nothing. Forget nothing. Then a final file flashed onto the screen, unprompted. A personal recording. "My name is Vorum, former ally of humanity, current warden of Accord. This message is not for you. It is for the one who opens this vault." We stared at it. Dax leaned forward, jaw tight. "Play it." The screen blinked, and his face appeared. Younger, less refined, not in robes, but in a Dominion uniform. "If you're hearing this, then I failed." His voice wasn't prideful. Not yet. "I didn't betray humanity for power. I did it for order. We were chaos, fire. We tore ourselves apart. I thought, if I ended the species, the galaxy might survive." He looked away. "But I didn't count on memory. I didn't count on you." The screen went black. Silence. Then Dax said something I'll never forget. "Good. Let him be afraid." We returned to the Revenant different. Not just survivors, not even soldiers. We were witnesses now, and witnesses carry the fire. The vault's truth had already begun to burn. Uprisings flared in remote colonies. Hidden humans emerged, awakened by ancestral memories. Data shards infected Accord servers, replacing history books with blood records. And Vorum? He spoke. He broadcast a single message across all frequencies, his voice calm, cold, unshaken. "This is Vorum. To the children of Earth, turn yourselves in, renounce your past. You will be granted mercy." We answered, "No." We didn't expect them to strike so fast. 2 days after Vault Zero went live, entire systems erupted. Human sleeper cells in the outer colonies rose up, some armed, some not. They marched in silence, holding signs etched with the old Dominion sigil. The same one glowing beneath my skin. Most were killed within hours, shot in the street, rounded up, executed live on feeds that were supposed to frighten the rest of us back into hiding. They didn't. They made us angry. Vorum's voice echoed across the networks again, this time less composed. "This ends now. You will not rewrite history. You will not spread chaos. Humanity had its time. It chose extinction." He ordered a purge. Not a quiet one, Warships descended on outer ring systems like vultures. Drones filled the skies. Colonies that had been neutral for centuries suddenly turned into furnaces. But something happened that Vorum hadn't predicted. Other species hesitated. Some of them remembered. Some had fought beside humans. Loved them. Buried them. They'd gone silent after our fall. Afraid to speak. Now they watched the videos coming out of Vault Zero. The screams, the betrayals, the truth, and something shifted. They didn't join us, not yet. But they didn't stop us either. The galaxy was starting to doubt its history. And doubt is how revolutions begin. Dax gathered us in the war chamber. A dozen survivors, soldiers, wrecks, fighters who'd clawed their way out of history's grave. "This is our moment," he said. "The fire's lit. Now we fan it." He tapped the holomap, highlighting a target. Station Karsus 9. Accord's data control hub. A fortress wrapped in energy fields and surrounded by 4 interlocked battlecruisers. This station is where Vorum's counter-propaganda begins. He's rewriting again, faster than before, sending fake clips of humans committing atrocities, faking admissions, fabricating wars we never fought. He looked around. If we don't kill that lie now, Vault Zero dies in vain. I stepped forward. "How do we even get inside?" Vox answered. "We don't. Not through the front. But Karsus was built using Dominion tech during the peace accords. There's a spine, an old maintenance corridor sealed after Earth fell. It still recognizes command lineage." Me. Again, I was the lockpick, the scalpel. And if this went wrong, I'd be the martyr. We went in with a strike team of 6. Me, Dax, Marith, 2 reawakened scouts named Ren and Olin, and a silent tank of a man named Stray, who hadn't spoken a word since Marith pulled him from a cryopod a week ago. The Revenant dropped us in low orbit. The moment we breached atmosphere, every alarm on the station flared. The entire structure hummed with shields and rotating cannons. Automated flak lit the sky. But the spine, buried in the underbelly, was untouched. Vox guided us in. A precise landing on a decaying port panel no bigger than a coffin. We burned through the old seal, sparks crackling, and dropped inside. Silence. Dust and echoes of our own breathing. We were inside Karsus 9. Time to kill a lie. The corridor was tighter than I expected. Every few feet, we passed old Dominion markings, erased, half-burned, but still there. It felt like we were crawling through a ghost's vein. Marith took point, Stray behind her. I was in the middle, palms sweating, blade strapped to my back like a second spine. We reached the central access panel, dead for 20 millennia. I touched it. The Revenant's mark on my arm lit up. The panel whined and opened, and every camera in the station turned. We split into 2 teams. Mareth, Stray, and Olin went left to detonate the central fusion array. We couldn't take the station, but we could break it, scatter its files, and halt the broadcast flood. Dax, Ren, and I went right to reach the data core. The mainframe that fed lies to the galaxy. We moved fast. Too fast. It was a trap. They let us in. The moment we reached the data chamber, the floor dropped. Not physically. Digitally. Walls shifted. Gravity warped. Doors slammed shut. And Dax froze. Not in fear. In recognition. "Vorum," he said. The room shimmered. And there he was. A full construct, not a projection. Tall, serene, cloaked in energy, his face carved from the same arrogance as every tyrant who thought they were doing humanity a favor. "You disappoint me, Theron," he said. "After all this time, you cling to fire, to rage. You should have evolved. Dax raised his blade. You call murder evolution? I call it mercy, Vorum said. The universe doesn't need your species. You were a virus. You burned too hot. You always have. I stepped forward, and you were supposed to be our ally. His eyes found mine. Ah, the orphan, the seed, the wild spark. His voice sharpened. You should not exist. I smiled. That's what they said last time. He moved, faster than I could react. But Dax blocked him, blade clashing with raw code and light. They fought like gods, metal and fire, blade and AI pulse. Ren grabbed me, pulling me towards the data core. You know what to do! I ran. The core pulsed, alive, massive. I reached into my pack and pulled out the second shard, a coded truth spike made from Vault Zero's darkest files. If I embedded it here, the lies would die. The signal would eat itself from the inside. But Vorum was winning. He kicked Dax across the room, sending him through a wall of data conduits. Then he turned to me. You're not strong enough. I plunged the spike in and screamed. My head exploded, not from pain, from memory. I saw everything, not just Earth's fall. I saw the deals, the politicians, the betrayals, humans sold to the Accord as experiments in exchange for temporary peace. I saw the children turned into weapons. The cities turned into test labs, and I saw Vorum watching. Always watching. Saying nothing. Justifying it all as balance. That was the truth. Not that we were wiped out. That we were traded like livestock. I collapsed. The spike finished its upload. The room pulsed. The lies shattered. Across the galaxy, every screen lit up. Every terminal, every command center. They saw it. They saw us. And Vorum screamed. Not in sound, but in data. He flared, glitched. He struck Dax with a digital scream that melted half the chamber. Dax fell, and I rose. The revenant blade burned in my grip. Vorum turned, and I buried it in his chest. He didn't bleed, but he shook. His code unraveled. His light dimmed. You can't stop it, he whispered. Even if you kill me, they'll never accept you. I leaned close. Good. Then I twisted the blade, and the Warden of Silence died screaming. The station was already tearing apart when we made it back to the drop point. Marith had triggered the overload. Stray carried Olin's body. Dax wasn't with us. He stayed behind, to hold the collapse. He died in fire, a general, a symbol, and now, a legend. The Revenant flew in silence. The galaxy was in chaos, civil unrest, protests, riots. The Accord stumbled. And humanity? We rose. No more hiding. No more apologies. No more silence. The galaxy burned, not with fire, not yet, with truth. The death of Vorum was like a pressure valve snapping open. Billions saw it in real time, their so-called guardian, the enforcer of peace, screaming as a human blade tore through his core. The lie was dead, and the silence we'd been buried under shattered in its wake. Worlds trembled. Colonies rebelled. Accord leaders were assassinated in the streets by species who finally realized they'd been complicit in genocide. Even loyalists whispered now, hesitant, uncertain, afraid. But the fire was only beginning. They wanted a war, they were about to get one. The Revenant pulsed with activity. Its ancient heart, once barely beating, now roared with a fury that touched every corridor. Woken sleepers filled the halls. Humans born in vaults, bred in exile, forged in pain. I stood on the bridge, staring at the fleet we had gathered. Ships stolen from derelict yards, gifted by rebel outposts, or resurrected from Dominion blueprints no one dared to use until now. It wasn't big, not compared to the Accord's endless armadas, but it was ours. And now we had a cause. Mareth stood beside me, blood still dried in the folds of her suit. She hadn't spoken much since Karsus 9. Stray loomed at the far end of the room, still silent, still carrying Olin's broken dog tags around his neck. I was alone among allies, a symbol they now followed. And I hated it, because I never wanted to lead, I just wanted the truth. But once you carry it, the truth demands fire. Vox's voice echoed through the bridge. Accord fleets mobilizing across 5 sectors, preparing for full-scale suppression, estimated 67% of outer systems in active resistance. Numbers? I asked. Irrelevant, Vox replied. This is no longer a war of ships, it is a war of memory. I closed my eyes. They would come for us with everything, not just fleets and weapons, but media, diplomacy, manipulation. They would flood the networks with new lies, say we were terrorists, savages, monsters. They would call us the second fall of man. And maybe they were right. But this time, we were falling with a blade in our hand. The final choice came faster than expected. Vox had intercepted a signal. A summit. The Accord's remnants were gathering in a deep space cathedral called Erithus Prime, neutral territory, supposedly sacred ground. No weapons, no fleets, just leaders and silence. It was a public event, broadcast sector-wide, a last attempt at unity, at controlling the narrative, at proving they still held power. I knew what it really was. A lie wrapped in prayer. They would use it to declare a new truth. One without us again. Unless we stopped them. Mareth wanted to strike it from orbit. Burn the cathedral. Let the universe know we don't forgive. Stray said nothing, but loaded his gear. The crew was ready. They didn't need speeches anymore. Just direction. But I hesitated. Because this wasn't just a target. It was a message. The galaxy was watching. Billions of species. Millions of systems. All of them staring at the stage, waiting to see if humanity would be what they were always told. A species of anger, or something worse. I made my choice. We arrived cloaked. The Revenant drifted in the shadows of a dead moon, just outside the cathedral's range. The summit had begun. Delegates from dozens of species arrived in ceremonial ships, wrapped in flags and tradition. I boarded alone. Mareth protested. Vox warned me. Didn't matter. They had taken everything from us once, without facing what they'd done. This time, they would look me in the eyes. I walked into the summit hall unarmed, dressed in old Dominion armor, not polished, not ceremonial, scarred, functional, real. The silence hit first. Then the murmurs. Then the panic. Guards raised weapons. Delegates rose from their seats. Cameras locked onto me. The broadcast flared across the stars. He's here. It's him. The human. I stopped in the center of the room, and I spoke, not loud, not angry, just true. You erased us. I turned slowly, locking eyes with every species that once cheered our extinction. You called it mercy. You called it balance. You fed us into machines, burned our worlds, and blamed us for bleeding. Some tried to speak. I didn't let them. You made us monsters. You built empires on our bones. You taught your children that we were myths. Or mistakes. I stepped closer to the Accord's lead representative, a high-caste Ilari with 6 eyes and a voice like sand. You told the galaxy you saved it from us. I held up the mark on my arm, the blade wrapped in wings. Now you see what you buried. He sneered. You threaten us with fire again. History repeats. I smiled. Number we do. Then I turned to the cameras. To those watching, we aren't coming to rule. We aren't coming to enslave. We aren't coming to build empires. My voice dropped. We're coming to remind you what happens when you lie to history. I walked out. Didn't get shot. Didn't get arrested. The broadcast went viral. And the galaxy trembled. The days that followed weren't clean. Riots erupted. Alliances cracked. The Accord tried to spin it, tried to say it was staged, fake, AI-generated. But they couldn't stop the flood. Vault Zero's files kept leaking. More humans awakened. More rebel fleets lit their engines. Even a few alien colonies switched sides, not out of loyalty, but shame. They had believed the lie. Now they believed the fire. I stood in the Revenant's command chamber, watching the systems light up one by one. Red, blue, gold, each one a beacon, each one a flame. Marith entered. Some of them want peace, she said. I didn't look at her. Do they deserve it? She didn't answer. I finally turned. They want us to stop, to forgive, to forget. But that's what got us erased the first time. They're scared, she said. So were we. She nodded, then asked the one question that mattered. What now? I stared out at the stars. Not empty this time. Filled with our presence, our history, our dead. And I said, now we teach them to remember.